almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Anna Lamotte. Welcome to Living at Your Finest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Babs. I'm a triple board certified family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine physician, and I am the founder of Living at Your Finest Wellness, a holistic direct primary care practice. Did you know that 80% of lifestyle-related chronic diseases within our communities are preventable, with poor diet being the primary culprit? Now, contrary to what we thought, that it was our unfortunate genes, the good news is that we can make changes together to improve our health and quality of life. So that's what this podcast is all about. The Living at Your Finest podcast is devoted to helping families to live at their finest well-being using a holistic approach with a healthy lifestyle to nourish and flourish as a whole, vibrant, and healthy champion. So join me and my guests as we share transformational and sustainable skill sets from our health and wellness journey to support you and your families in achieving optimal well-being. Ready to live at your finest? Well, let's get to it. All right. Hello, everyone. Greetings, Living at Your Finest health champions. Welcome back to the Living at Your Finest podcast show. Thank you all for tuning in. We will certainly make this time packed full with great nuggets to support your health and wellness journey. You know, I always at this time of the year, always have to check in with myself and how things are going. And I want to check in with you, my loyal listeners, both the new and the not so new. How are things with you? How is the family? How is your health? We always need to have this check-in from time to time because we can all get super busy. So I want to use this opportunity to just thank you for just hanging in here with me, and just to remind you, as I remind myself, that it's progress, not perfection, right? Well, I'm excited about this episode because, this month of September, we celebrate Self-Care Month. And my wonderful IG friend, Coach Ileka Falette, is graciously joining us to speak about relevant topics pertaining to self-care. So it's titled Physical Wellness and Burnout. She's an expert in her field, so I'm so honored to have her on our podcast. The topic items today, we're going to be talking about tips to prioritize our health, how we can avoid burnout, and how to reduce stress. Who would want to hear about that? So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. I would always like to start with a brief introduction. So let me go ahead and make the brief introduction of our guest speaker. So Coach Ileka Falette is a certified NLP mindset coach and an NASM certified personal trainer. She works with health and wellness entrepreneurs and female executives, almost over 1,000 that she's worked with. So you see that she's well versed and well experienced. She helps to avoid burnout and helps to find the balance between work less, increase revenue, live healthier, and just live intentionally. Remarkably, she's lost over 120 pounds and she's kept it off for so many years. So I can't wait to tap into her awesomeness and learn more. So a warm welcome to you, our coach and our speaker for today, Coach Ileka Falette, to the Living at Your Finest podcast show.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Babs. And nice to see you, right? It's Instagram friends. We get to chat occasionally on Zoom and things like that. It's so great to be here on the podcast. And thank you all for having me. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really excited to speak on this topic because it's one of my favorite topics of all time. So, yeah.
I'm so excited that you're here. So let's dig into it. We want to find out, where did this passion come from? I mean, what led to you having all this wealth of experience? Can you share, please?
Yeah, definitely. So about 8 years ago, I was in corporate America working for a Fortune 100 company in leadership development and executive coaching. And I have 4 kids, right? And of course, I was over 100 pounds heavier. And folks are looking at me and thinking, oh, she's a superwoman. Wow, 4 kids, and you're an executive at a company and you're doing all these things, living your best life, right? Amazing husband, all of these things. Meanwhile, I was drowning, obviously 120 pounds overweight, tired all the time. I was so tired that the kids got used to me saying, mommy's so tired. I'd be like, oh, I'm about to this. Oh, is it because you're tired, mommy? Like, it was just normal. It became normal, right? Working insane hours, 12 hours, 16-hour days. And just it felt like life was passing me by, and I was draining, and I was underneath it all, right? Drinking from a water hose, right? Or a fire hose. That's what we all say. And so I knew something needed to shift. There were a series of things that happened with my children all around the same time. Nothing insane, but just things that highlighted that they noticed that I wasn't living at my healthiest. And so it really was that push to make that shift. So I began changing the way I ate, changing my exercise, or implementing more of a consistent exercise routine.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming more consistent with that. The weight came off really quickly. And I decided that, it was more than just the weight, because the weight had come off and I was still working crazy hours. I was still tired all the time. So it wasn't just that, I knew that something else had to change. And that's when I realized that it was my mindset and, of course, self-care. I hadn't been incorporating enough self-care. I was stressed a lot. At this point, I'd begun helping. I'd shifted and begun, because I did feel better. I no longer had pain in my knees and my back and my feet and all the things. And so I began shifting to help other women improve their health. And that's when I noticed that them and me were struggling with the same thing around balance. Balance still wasn't there. They were still living that overwhelm. They were still trying to keep up this healthy lifestyle and the family and the business. And it became too much for me. And so that's when I knew something needed to change. I needed to take time for me, and I needed to love myself the way I loved others. I needed to pour into myself the way I poured into others. And I had to look at it as, if I'm not pouring into me, I won't be able to pour into them. I literally had to trick myself into pouring into myself, because I wouldn't have done it just for me. And that's when I knew something really needed to shift, because in that moment, I realized that in my brain, I wasn't important enough to pour into me. And I began to recognize the same in many of my clients that were losing 50 pounds, 100 pounds. They still were doing even that for someone else, for their kids, for their husband, for their family, so they could be there for them. And we realized that there needed to be a shift. Yes, we get to be there for our families. We get to share love with them, show love for them, and protect them, and help them and guide them and all the things. And we get to do things for ourselves as well, because we're just as important. And that's where things began to shift for me, where I was like, something needs to change. And so I went, and that's when I became NLP master practitioner, to understand what was going on in my brain and also in my clients' brains that needed to make some changes.
Oh, wow. That is so amazing. Oh my gosh. I was just like having goosebumps, because you're keeping it real. That's what happens to all of us. We just, especially women, high achieving women, we want to care for everyone else, and we forget ourselves, put ourselves in the back burner. So kudos to you. I'm so proud of the work that you did. And your kids, your beautiful children. I know I've seen you work out with them. So I can only imagine, Mom, you're tired again. What's going on? So I'm so glad that you did that. And when I was in academia, I recall asking my chair, I said, I can't find the balance. Please give me advice. You're my mentor. How can I find balance with life and everything? Because I love to write papers, I love to teach, and then I come home, I want to cook, I want to be all, do all, be all. And I remember what he said. He said, you know what? I've been in practice for, I think he said, like 40 plus years. When you find the balance, the trick to balance, let him know.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, really? That's all you're going to give me? He's like, no, go look for it. When you find it, let me know, because he's still looking for it and he hasn't found it. So yes, we definitely need to be intentional about it and understand that the mindset. And that's why, we hear all the time that it's not just the weight. You can lose all the weight, right? But if you don't change the core of who you are, unfortunately, you lose that weight and can gain it back if you don't have the right mindset. So yes, I'm so glad that you shared that journey with us. So if you can highlight, just share more specifically, how did you get to that mindset shift? Was it something that you just said and you just turned it on, or what is that process like? Someone is listening right now and they're like, you know what, I really need to figure out that mindset, but I'm too busy. How am I going to sit and really figure it out? Can you share some tips on how you work with your clients, or even from your own personal experience, how were you gradually able to get to that place, that frame of mind?
So one of the things that I do is I have a community. In that community, actually a membership, and in the membership we talk about things like this. And one of the tools that I was giving them the other day is how to incorporate self-care into every day of our lives, because self-care it's a buzzword right now, right? It's used quite often.
Yes.
And the thing is, though, we get to look at what self-care actually means and really dig into what it means for us and why it's important. So self-care gets to be important because self-care gets to be a part of stress management, right? Stress doesn't stop coming, right? It's just about how we handle it. Because something I was talking to a client about the other day is stress is a neutral thing, right? Like, or the thing that's causing stress is a neutral thing. Any experience gets to be neutral. We decide to create meaning to it, to add meaning to it. So this morning, this is a funny example. This morning, my daughter, it was 8:40 and she was not dressed for school. The bus comes at 8:55, right? And I'm like, what is happening? Why aren't you dressed? Like you know the routine. And she's like, oh, I forgot. We were playing a game. I lost track of time. I'm like, okay, you need to get dressed now. And then I'm gonna just take your lunch because we do everything the night before. So lunch is made, everything's the night before. So I'm like, I'm gonna take your lunch and put in your backpack. I get her lunch out of the fridge and I shake it. Realize that something is missing in here. Open the lunch. She has a bag of popcorn and a juice. And that is it. That's the end of what she's put in her lunch. I'm like, what is happening here? Right. And so in that moment, of course, I, got everything situated. But in that moment, I could have chosen, oh my goodness, we only have 15 minutes left. And I could have chosen a space of stress, right? Like, oh, why is this? I can't believe this. She knows to do this. And like, I could have gone into that whole pattern, right? And now down a whole, like downhill within the stress, right? And just lived into it. And now me living into the stress brings her into the stress. And of course, my son who's there, now we're all stressed out and they've got to go to school and I've got to start my day. Now the entire day turns into a stressful day. Or I can decide, okay, none of this stuff is done. Let me just do the stuff that needs to be done. And then when she gets home, we can all talk about what we should be doing better, how we can improve this process, right? Now it's just a neutral situation and it doesn't have meaning. Now it's not stress, right? Now it's just something that happened. So it's just looking at the situation as, how do I want to handle it? Am I going to decide to be angry about it or stressed out about it? Or am I going to decide to just take action? And what do I need to do here? How can I make this situation better or improve it? Or how can I just make the situation go away? Or, whatever the case may be, right? Because when we look at creating stress in the situation, all stress does is create stagnation. When we're stressed out, we aren't moving. And if we are moving, we aren't really moving in the way we're supposed to. We're just running and doing stuff, right? Yeah, whereas we can create a situation that actually still aligns with where we were going versus sitting there in stress for 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. And so that's the stress part. So now when we look at self-care, I will tell you, had I not done my morning routine before that, I could have stepped into complete stress on this, anger and yelling and whatever, right? But there's a morning routine. We get to incorporate self-care into each day. And for me and many of my clients, we do it through meditation, prayer, journaling, different things to start off our day, and you get to decide what self-care looks like for you. Because for me, exercising is a part of my self-care too. So I usually wake up, get my workout in, and then get my time to meditate and things like that and get the kids off to school. That allows me to be able to really manage my day without looking for spaces to be angry or create additional emotions that don't need to be there. And so we get to look at how do you want to handle what your day looks like each day rather than going through, because many people, right, we go through every day, just whatever, right? And it's like, oh, I can't wait to our girls trip on July 27th, 2024. That is a whole year away. Or I can't wait to go to to go and get my massage next week. So you sit in stress for a full week, right? Get your massage. And then for the next month, you're going to sit in stress until your next massage? Or can we create spaces to release that, throughout the week, throughout the day? And so that's really a big thing, is creating little moments of self-care to allow you to manage your stress or whatever comes up throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Definitely. I love what you said. Space for, create that space. You either create it for the stress or you create it for just self-care, loving yourself enough to understand that you don't want to perpetuate that stressful event, and you want to, the end goal is to have peace and joy and just get it done. And however you are able to do that, just go ahead and do that, and don't get into this fight or flight mode, which unfortunately, because we're all emotions friends where, buddies of emotions, it can
Mhm.
very, very quickly escalate before you know it. And you're like, what happened? The day started quite okay. But because we did not prepare those moments, like you said, in the morning, first thing,
Mhm.
prepare and set your mind frame for how you're going to show up in the day, and not let we hear all the time that majority of what happens to us is how we react to it. It's not what has actually happened to us.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
that comes with practice, isn't it? It comes with practice, setting that
Mhm.
self-care time, that
Yeah.
routine, but also practicing it. I know, I love to journal as well, and that helps me. Meditation, stretching, that helps. But I know days where I rush out and I don't get it done, I'm snappy, I'm not as patient as I would be.
Yeah.
And my kids will say, what happened to you? You didn't write in your book today?
You can write in your book.
They call me out. They call it my book. You didn't write
Yeah.
a book today. So I love the way you tied it all in, that we have to practice it. We have to be intentional and know what those end goals are. So regardless of what people tell you in terms of, I'm too busy, I can't meditate. I can't, I'm just hustling and running. You've made it very clear that you determine how you want your day to go. You either prepare in the back end, right? Like you
Mhm.
have a website that they have the back end and all the work is done, and then it shows up beautifully on
Yeah.
screen, or you want to rush out and everything will be chaotic. So I guess it's really
Mhm.
about creating the time and making sure that you see the benefits in it. Yeah. So
Exactly. It's
go
funny
ahead.
that you mentioned that with creating the time too, because one of
Yeah.
the things that I work with a lot of women who are busy, right? And we talk about busy, and I was busy, right? So busy. And then, so one of the things that we would do early on, and I even in my membership, we have folks do this early on, is like write down their schedule, write down what the day looks like for them. And
Nice.
so usually you think that you're busier than you actually are. Once you write it down, it's like, oh, there's a lot of stuff, but man, how am I spending time watching Real Housewives of blah, 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 every Thursday, right? Or, whatever that is, right? We create time for things that we want to do. And it's like, well, you get to create time for this because this is something you want to do and need to do. So
Yeah.
it's like creating that space for yourself. And also we create time for other people all the time. If you're
Yeah.
doing something, your kid needs to go to soccer practice, all of a sudden you've created so much
All
time
of a
to
sudden
do
it's
soccer.
possible for you to
Right?
take them to
Exactly.
practice, but it's not
Exactly.
possible for you to do like 10 minutes of, yeah, you're just keeping it real. You're calling us all out for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And we do it. We do it. And I mean, I say it because it was me
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
forever. And so
Yeah.
now I look at it as, yes, I'm creating the time for soccer practice and I'm creating the time for my self-care, because we get to do both. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. I love that analogy. Yeah, and then for those of us that have kids too, they're watching us. They're paying attention to how we manage our time, how we
Mhm.
prioritize our self-love and self-care. I remember I used to tell my kids, I had a t-shirt that's like, Mom has clocked out. It's 9 p.m. I'm off the clock.
Right.
This is mommy's time.
Uh-huh.
And that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was pulling my hair out. I had blood pressure issues. I had gained so much weight. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I had to let everyone know mommy has to care for herself. I had to get right to help
Mhm.
them. Same thing with my husband. I was like, this is me time. And it
Yeah,
took some time,
exactly.
but they finally got it. I have
Mhm.
patients too. Oh, bless their heart, like grandparents taking care of the grandkids, and they're in my office crying that
Uh-huh.
they don't
Yeah.
want to disappoint their family. They are
Mhm.
counting on them. Nope, they don't have anyone else. And I'm like, but you are not well. You need to talk to them, and you love them, but you have to love yourself to be able to be around for them. And the moment
Mhm.
they got into that mindset and they spoke to their family members, all of a sudden they found alternatives, right? So it's
Yeah.
definitely so important that, as listeners are hearing what we're saying, that we understand that we create time for what we consider as important. And if that is important to you, which it should be, that you create the time, and no matter how little, but as you mentioned, consistency is the name of the game too. If it's just
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, but to do a lot of that. So I have a question in terms of avoiding burnout. So where does the burnout come in? Is it people, because you have some people, they call them Energizer Bunny, and you see on TV where, oh, they're always here, they're always there. And in my
Mhm.
mind, I'm like, is that healthy? Really? I don't know if you've been to places where, and I don't have any issues with people being everywhere and doing everything for everyone. I just sometimes feel like that they're doing it because it's expected of them. And, I wonder where they create time
Yeah.
for themselves. So I don't know what your thoughts about how do you avoid burnout? Or are they just people that never get burnout and can do everything because they energizer bunnies and it's okay to keep living on that, 24/7 energy? What are your thoughts about that? And if you do have clients like that, how do you help them to see that potentially down the road that happen if they do not take time for self-care?
Yeah. So, and this is hugely important because I think that a lot of folks who are like this don't realize that they're potentially approaching burnout. They're so used to doing everything and being everything for everyone. And like you said, I don't have an issue with that either because, maybe you're someone who loves to be of service. And so that's a part of, what you like to do. And at the same time, you find yourself going home and saying, like at the end of the day and being like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, and when you've done this for years and years and years, sometimes the burnout becomes normalized. You've been doing it for so long that it's like, this is just who I am. No, I'm supposed to be tired all the time. What do you mean? Or I'm supposed to wake up at 4 a.m. and go to sleep at midnight. So I only need 4 hours of sleep. So I'm totally fine with that, and then it's like all of a sudden one day you notice that you're passed out and you are struggling to wake up because you're just so tired and over it. So the first step of avoiding burnout is knowing that you're on the way there. When you realize that, this is a potential because of how you've been, surviving, right? Because that's kind of what it is. It's surviving at that point. When you notice that you're on your way there, then you get to look at how can I shift? And you get to take space and break. Sometimes permission is a big way to avoid burnout. Like many times, and when I say permission, many times we're working along this path. We're so used to being here, being there, doing all the things, and you think you're supposed to do it. This is just what I'm supposed to do, and sometimes it even becomes, this is what I want to do. I want to be doing all these things, which is awesome, right? And at the same time, when you have that permission to say, you know what, I can actually say no to this thing, or I can actually take a full day break and just have some time for me. You know what? My husband can take the kids for now. My husband can take the kids for the day. My work can be, I'm going to take a day off because some people actually take a day off of work. Like I'm not going to volunteer at church this weekend and at the community center this weekend and at this, I'm actually going to take one day for just me. And you have permission to do that. When you realize that you have the permission to do that, then all of a sudden you get to look at, during that time, look at, what is this how I want my life to look? Is this how I want my day to look? Each day, me running from one thing to the next. And if it's not, what can I do to shift that? What are the things that are a major priority? And so we get to look at those things and shift based on that. The other thing that I teach about when it comes to avoiding burnout and also even reducing the overwhelm is looking at that 17-mile long to-do list and really looking at that to-do list and saying, do I need to be doing everything on this list? Like, is this all for me to do? What can I delegate? What can I delete and remove altogether? Like, does it even have to be done? Right? What can I schedule out into, next week or next month even? Folks will look at their to-do list and they'll have things on it like, oh, I've got to redo our kitchen. We've got to redo our kitchen because right now all the appliances and things are stainless steel and we want to do nickel. Really? Is that something that has to be done tomorrow? Like, so why is it even on the list and on the list in a way where you're still thinking about it? It's still running around in your head. You're randomly pulling up Best Buy to see, to see what new appliances they have, right? Like all these things, your appliances work, so you're just doing it because you want it to look better. I get that. And that's okay. And we get to look at, is that something that has to be done today? And what else? And maybe it's easier to delegate that to someone who actually remodels kitchens versus you thinking that you're supposed to be the kitchen remodeler. And it's big things like that to small things like the laundry. A few years ago, actually, I'll even tell this story. A few years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine and she's a VP at a major corporation, right? So imagine the responsibility. And she has multiple kids, married, and spends a lot of time with her family and also volunteers and does some different things. So we were talking and she's like, yeah, I just got to, clean up the kitchen and we're going to do clean up the house this weekend and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, are you cleaning your house yourself? And she's like, yeah. And why? Like, Why aren't you just hiring someone? Do you enjoy cleaning? First of all, let me ask that question. Is that something you enjoy? Because if it's not, you don't need to be down there doing the baseboards. Like, there are professionals who actually do this for a living. You could hire someone to come in every week or every 2 weeks if you feel like every week is too much to clean. And now you get that time back to focus on the things that you need to do. And so we get to look at those things. And that's something that we're actually talking about at the retreat, at my retreat that I'm hosting at the end of September. We're going to be talking about that, like how to reduce that burnout and that overwhelm, and also how to shift your life in a way that you get to do the things that you love, and the things that you just do because you're supposed to get to be done by the professionals. Like, how do we create that situation? Because it can be created. And I think we live in this world where our moms did everything. Why can't we? Well, you know what? Number one, mom was probably burnt out. I know my mom was growing up, and we've talked about it now, and she didn't realize it was just normal, right?
Right. It was a thing they did. It was just normal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why
And
it's key about what you said. You have to, first of all, be true to yourself, understand, and also give yourself permission, because if you keep doing things the way it has always been done and you haven't really even sat down to say, okay, fine, it was done that way, but how did it serve them? Did it help them? So yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. Awesome. I'm so glad you were saying that, because I had to learn to delegate. So that's why I chuckled when you said it, because I was that person that wanted to do everything. I mean, I would clean my house, cook my food, do gardening. I was that and I didn't realize I was getting burned out. I was just doing it because I was like, oh, well, I like to do it. I want to be the one to do it.
Right.
And that was when I had the blood pressure issues, 220/120. There's just so much you can do within time frame. And then I wasn't sleeping, chronic fatigue. But I think I gave myself permission. That was what I ended up doing. I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this. I can delegate, because there's only so much. What is more important to me for me to do? And cooking was one of it, but I didn't need to garden. So we got a lawn person, reasonable price. We got somebody to clean my house. And as my kids got older, if for any reason we had to change cleaners, I was like, okay, well, and by the time we find somebody else, let's all divide and conquer. And then everyone started doing their laundry. I mean, my kids, when my youngest, he's 12 now, but I recall then he was barely 3. He learned how to put his clothes. And then let's do it together. I always, I have this big plaque in my house that teamwork makes the dream work. So let's all do it together, divide and conquer. But you're absolutely right. There are people still in this day and age that think it's okay to do everything, and they feel like they can just keep going. I mean, your phone is running out of juice. You would charge it. Why don't we stop ourselves to recharge? So those are great steps that you mentioned. And I'm hoping that listeners, if you are still, feeling like you're an Energizer bunny, just give yourself permission that it's okay. You need to love yourself. I think the Bible says love yourself love your neighbor as thyself, not more than yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
As thyself. As thyself, not more than thyself. So yes, those are fantastic tips. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. My goal on this podcast is to empower, educate, and encourage you to take actionable steps to triumph at living at your finest, body, mind, and spirit. Of note, the information provided here is for educational purposes only and does not substitute as medical advice. Please discuss your healthcare needs with your licensed medical professional. If you are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive holistic physician, or know someone who is, please reach out through my website, livewellness.com, for a meet and greet. It will be my honor to talk to you. Are we connected on social media yet? I share more in-depth content on best practices to ensure that you live at your finest daily. So please join me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Living at Your Finest Wellness, where we can learn together and stay connected. Lastly, please subscribe to iTunes if you have not done so already, and share the podcast within your circle of influence. An extra step? Leave a review and let me know what topics or discussions you would like to hear more of. Thanks in advance. It is always a thing of joy to hear from you. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Well, we'd like to hear a lot more about your retreat and other services that you offer. But before we shift gears, want to know more about you as an individual. So do we have the permission to take you through some questions? Quick.
Yes.
less
I
than
love it.
1 minute response.
Yes, love it.
All right, very good.
Sure.
So, my first question to you is, what is your typical day in terms of relaxing? What do you do if you just, we're talking about this is self-care month. You're talking about how to avoid burnout and how to reduce stress for you. If you had that day, it was like, yes, you're just going to relax and enjoy yourself. What would you be doing?
So I do this every Friday, number one. So every Friday is my
Impressive.
self-care day. Yes.
Right.
So I wake up and I do my workout. Well, first I wake up and I do a quick visualization, just a 1 minute kind of, thanking God for the life that he's provided and just thinking about what my day gets to look like. And then I get a workout in about 45 minutes to an hour. And then I get the kids off to school. And once they're off to school, I spend about half an hour to 45 minutes meditating, journaling, and, just really kind of grounding myself, right? I get outside and just smell the fresh air and that sort of thing. And then I actually head to the gym. At the gym, it's not where I'm not necessarily doing a heavy workout. I do a hot yoga class. So that's some time for self-care because that just feels really good, energizing. And then I hop into the jacuzzi for a while and I go in the sauna and I go in the steam room and I take about right. And then
I
I
love
take
it.
and then I take about a 30-minute shower, 30 to 45-minute shower. And then many days I'll meet my husband for a late lunch. If he's able to do it that day. If not, I'll take myself out to a nice lunch. Um, and then if it's a massage day, then I'll go and have a massage at my massage therapist. If it's a pedicure day, then I'll go and do a pedicure at the pedicure place. I actually go to a Black-owned pedicure spot and a Black-owned massage space here in the Maryland area. And then I come on home. The kids come home. Since it's Friday, we don't do any homework or schoolwork or anything like that. We sit down, we'll play Uno, we hang out, we might do a family game night. Sometimes we'll do like a fun cooking thing together. My son has really gotten into making different types of pizzas based on TikTok. But I just do it. Like it's fun. So we have a really good time doing that. And then the kids go off and play their games or do whatever. And my husband and I usually hang out and we talk and we, either watch a movie or a comedy show or something together and, go off to bed. And that's our day. And it's like the perfect day for me because when I talk about self-care, I talk about self-care in a way that highlights what energizes you, right? Self-care is what energizes you, what rejuvenates you and makes you feel good again. And for me, the time with my kids, listening to them laugh and have no care in the world, that energizes me because I know that they get to have fun. What also energizes me is, the whole day in the sauna, the gym, like all that stuff, right? I'm doing all that too. My workout, the time of meditation and just enjoyment and connection with myself and with God, like having that space. And then the time and connection with my husband at the end of the day as well. So I got like in that day, I got to spend time with my favorite people in the world, including myself, right?
Yes.
And really just enjoy the whole day. And that's like my self-care day, just about every Friday.
Lovely. And you don't skip out on it for any reason whatsoever.
Right. Unless I'm traveling. If I'm traveling, I don't get to go to the gym, and do my sauna and stuff like that.
Nice. Oh my gosh. I was just like dreaming of everything as you were saying. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. That I love it. And I love that you've designated that day. And that's what we all need to do. Just really be intentional about it. I had a day similar like that before the pandemic. And I was telling my mom that I need to quit, just activate it again. So I do have things that I do like that, but it's scattered on several days. So it would be great to go back to exactly what you just said, where, just that one day. And of course, I'm sure as you do every day, no matter how short it is, at least you do something for you. But on that specific day, you broaden it and you extend it. Yeah. And you said something that is so neat. You said you've spent with your favorite people in the world. So your husband, your kids, but you remember that you are also your most favorite person in the world. So fantastic. I know that we are all getting great nuggets and tips here. I have one last question for you, and we'll have you share how, listeners can get in touch with the great work that you do. And of course, if there's anything else that you have coming up, share with us so that we can be in tune with you. Now, last question. One word that describes you. What would that word be?
One word that describes me, I would say big. And
Yes.
the reason I say big is because we get to be big. We get to be bigger than life. We get to be
Mm,
big and play big and
mm,
show up big. No
mm.
more hiding.
Yes, I
And
love
so
it.
big describes me. I'm 5'10" also. So I'm a big person naturally. And
Wow.
so growing up, I would like shrink down
Yeah.
because I didn't like the fact that I was bigger than everyone else. I was taller than everyone else. Everywhere we went, everyone could always see me because I stood above everyone.
Right.
Because I was 5'10" in the ninth grade. So I was 5'10", so, and then you
Wow.
stop
Very
growing.
early.
And
Yeah.
so for years I shrank, and I decided several years ago to
Mm,
stop shrinking and
mm.
to be big. And
Yeah.
so that's my word.
Lovely. I love it. Your younger self would be like,
I
hey, and your
know,
older
right?
self would be like, yes, awesome,
Exactly.
awesome,
Yep.
awesome.
Because one of the big things is we got to play big when we were really little, and I remember being a bigger than life personality as a kid, and
Yeah.
something shifted because someone told me you're doing too much.
Mm.
Like you hear that
Oh
and if you
gosh.
notice, it's something that we try our best not to say to our kids now,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it shrinks someone when you're told at 5 that
Mm,
you're too much. You begin to believe that you're too much.
mm.
And now you go through life trying not to be
Trying
too
to
much.
cover your light because somebody
Exactly.
can't handle it. So
Yep.
you try to cover your
Hmm.
light. Yeah.
Exactly.
Women, we tend to do that a whole lot. And so we need to be conscious
Mhm.
about not just mirroring that for our kids as well. Because I have
Yeah.
two daughters, my 18 and 15. I'm grateful though that, I mean, we try not to. I do my best to always encourage them and all of that. But if I ever find myself, maybe based on how they want to express themselves, and I love that they stand up for them like themselves. I don't have to be this way. This is how I choose
Exactly.
to be. I'm like, okay, I stand
Mhm.
corrected. Excuse
Yeah.
me. So yeah, but that's great. Yeah, big, that's a lovely word, and I know that I've benefited from just having you as a guest, a wonderful guest.
Thank
This has
you.
been lovely. Well,
Mm.
please share with us how we can stay in touch, and I will certainly share all your links in the show notes, but we'd like to hear just how we can stay in touch with you.
Definitely. Thank you. So best way to really connect with me and continue to stay connected. I'm on Facebook at Ileka Falette, also on Instagram at Ileka Falette. And then I have a YouTube channel is Life Health Now. But if you put in Ileka, then my channel will come up. So those are great ways to stay connected with me. Also via email, ileka@ilekafalette.com. And so what I have coming up is I have a membership called the Wellness Collective. And we're talking about reclaim your curves and how to be holistically well, right?
Yeah.
Well, financially, well in the mindset. So mentally, emotionally, and physically. It all comes together because these are things, if you think about all the things that we just talked about, those are all spaces where stress loves to step in. Where overwhelm loves to step in. And so we get to manage the stress. And so we step into overall wellness. And that's why we call it the Wellness Collective. And so we have that. And you can always go to reclaimyourcurves.com to get into that. And then the other space that we have or the other thing I have coming up is my retreat. I host retreats a couple times a year. And so the next one is actually in September, and it's in Orlando, Florida. And it's about essentially how to become unstuck. We have speakers speaking on things like how to become unstuck, how to remove overwhelm, how to laminate your lifestyle. We have one speaker who's really speaking on that's amazing. And even financial wellness, how to heal. And we're also talking stress management and relationship management. And then at the same time, during this retreat, we're showing women who want to host retreats how to host retreats and while increasing your revenue, so that it's an actual profitable revenue generating retreat versus a retreat that's just given just for fun, right? We want to be able to have the transformation at the retreat
Yes.
and have fun at the retreat and make the revenue. So that's what we're talking about.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Well, I am so grateful to you, Coach Falette. You've just really blessed us today. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast, and I will certainly subscribe to your YouTube channel
Yeah.
and look forward to, since you said you have several of those retreats, I look forward to attending one. I've
Yeah.
never heard of laminating your lifestyle, but that is intriguing. I will
Mhm.
definitely definitely like to be part of that community. So thank
Mhm.
you again. I appreciate you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. So, to my community of health champions, I hope that you've been blessed just as I have. Thanks for hanging out to the very end. It's the information impacted. It's now time to do something about it, right? It's in the action that you get the result. And the way I like to look at it, your head, your heart, and your hands. So, you got the information. What is it saying to your heart, and how are you going to take action with your hands? So, even if it's just 5 minutes, you have to sit down, ask yourself, what does my day look like? You already heard a coach say it. Write down what your day looks like. I've had to do that before and realize that there were pockets of areas where I could do more. I mean, kind of self-care, practice self-care, or eliminate or modify, but we need to do that work. And this is the month of self-care. This is the time to do it so that we can live at our finest. We can be whole, vibrant, and healthy, because that really is the goal, and you certainly deserve it. So I hope that you will take some action, share with loved ones, and let them participate, let them benefit from it. I always say caring is sharing, right? So share with others. And until next time, when we come back again, I want you to take good care of yourself and ensure that you stay your number one fan. All right. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.